Happy Sunday, everybody. It's that time once again. Time for another edition of the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report with the one, the only Otis Kirk. I'm Courtney Mims. It's nice to sit down and chat some football with you, Otis. So we're going to jump right into
Yeah,
it. There are 5 scholarships remaining for 2024. How are they going to be distributed and used? What can you tell us about that?
yeah. You know, Sam addressed Sam addressed that this week. Now, with that said, that number could increase if somebody leaves after spring ball, obviously. But right now, they're counting on 5 scholarships. One will go to a linebacker. Two will go to defensive tackles, interior defensive lineman, nose guard, defensive tackle type, and two to offensive lineman, one hopefully to a center if they're open, and one to maybe a tackle or whatever, or maybe a swing guy that can play between guard and tackle. But but they've got 5 scholarships, but that's exactly what Sam said how they're going to be distributed. And as I said, now remember, if somebody leaves after spring ball, and I think one left last year, he said, then and I don't remember who that was, but one player leaves and that opened up another scholarship. And it might be that that point you if it's a I'm just throwing a position out there, if it's a linebacker, if it's a cornerback, you might take another cornerback. If it's a receiver lead, you might take a receiver. But I'm just saying you might do that because they've got the numbers down at most of these positions. But one linebacker, two defensive. Right now, the weird thing is, Courtney, they have no defensive tackles in this class. Interior defensive lineman in the class of 2024. They've got they signed Anton Junkov from the junior college. They signed Charlie Collins, Kavion Henderson from high school, but those were it. They didn't sign any interior defensive linemen. So that is a high priority. Two there, and then a couple of offensive linemen. That's how the five should shape up right now.
Do we know any of the people that they're targeting for those? Do you have an idea of maybe some of the guys they're looking at to fill those scholarships right
Well,
now?
the only one would be Branson Hickman because most of the kids that will enter are kids who will enter after spring ball. But Branson Hickman made that decision at midterm and had to go back to SMU to graduate, so he would have that graduate transfer year.
Mm.
But he did take an official visit. What was that, last weekend?
Yeah,
I believe we
yeah,
had it
last
on.
weekend.
Yeah, he visited here. He got TCU and a couple other visits. People ask me how do I feel about him. I don't know if they can get past the TCU factor. His dad played at TCU. If they can get past that, I think Arkansas's got a good shot. But that could be a factor. Like I said, I feel his words were Arkansas. He had high expectations for the visit, and they exceeded them. So
Yeah.
that's a good sign. Well, it is obviously a good sign, but you always worry about TCU there. And he didn't want to name the other schools. He looked and said ACC, other SEC schools. But Branson, that would be the one name until some of these kids enter the portal after spring ball. That's when some of these will become clear
Mm.
who they're actually wanting. Because a lot of these kids right now, why not go through spring ball, see how it works, and then make your decision? But Branson had already made his. Most of them hadn't made that decision, and that's why that's the one name right now we can say for sure. The rest of them, I think, will become clear as spring practice around the country and kids start entering that transfer portal in about a month.
Yeah.
It opens up for 2 weeks in April. About a month from now, we'll have a lot starting to get a lot better idea of who those names will be, Courtney. But those
Absolutely.
are positions. But last year, Kiwi Rose from Louisiana Tech, some of those kids came into play, and it'll be the same thing this year. But they'll be looking to find another Kiwi Rose, another Tank Booker type. Uh, Another Xavier Sorry, I don't know if there's another one like that out there.
I
I'd
don't
love
know
to
if
find him
there's
if
that
there is,
either.
but no, I mean that, but yeah, and a lot of this at linebacker is more about numbers than anything else. They're feel pretty good about that position. We'll talk about that later. But the offensive lineman, there again, I think it's just keep adding to it and trying to get better there, get better depth too, and not just necessarily a starter because you have Addison Nichols. So if Branson Hickman comes, does he start? I mean, that's the thing. But and Sam's good about moving those offensive linemen, cross training them. He kind of feel like he he obviously he had done that before, started Kirkland and Skipper at guard and then moved them to tackle after they were here. So he'd done that before, but I think COVID year really showed Sam what you can do, moving kids to other
Mm.
positions, cross training them so you and finding out. I think he added to, I think he mentioned it. He added to his belief in that. It was like I said, he did that when he was here the first time. That was before you guys came, but he had Dan Skipper and Denver Kirkland as freshmen. They were going to be tackles, but he had tackles and needed guards, so he put them inside for 1 year. And then obviously when those tackles graduated, he moved those two kids out to tackle the next couple of 3 years.
Mm.
And so that's what he spent doing that. But I think that the COVID year taught him even more, or made him convinced that that's the way to go. And so, but it's good to know that these kids like can play a center and a guard, or a guard and a tackle, whatever, and that might be, I know he wants a true center, and it might be, like I said, the other kid could be a true, obviously he's going to take the best player he can get. If he can get a true tackle, then he'll take a true tackle. But if it's somebody that might be a swing player between guard and tackle, maybe a Patrick Kudus type, a guy who played tackle last year, played guard this year, somebody like Kudus, that might be what he takes. So hey, he's going to take the best. Obviously, going to take the best players he can get, but that's kind of an idea to give you an idea of just saying two offensive linemen. Let's break it down a little bit more specific. It's easy on the defensive line because those are interior defensive linemen. And then the linebacker, obviously just another number there, Somebody can possibly come in and start, or at least get in the rotation.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot more to talk about on the show, but Otis, you kind of brought something up there that I kind of want to expand upon. We're going to find out after spring ball a lot of things, but the Hogs already have a busy June lining up with a lot of official visits. Can you go through some of the guys they're going to be hosting? I mean, it's going to be a pretty jam-packed June for them.
Yeah, I will definitely have something to talk about on Sundays then, Courtney. I mean, no problem talking about, if I'm not too tired to talk about Sunday afternoon. I'm trying to lose my voice today. But yeah, they've got several lined up starting the May 31st weekend, which runs into June, obviously May 31st, June 2nd, June the 7th, June the 14th, June the 21st. Last year, that last weekend was a huge one. I think they had like 16 kids in, if I remember right. And it's shaping up to be a big one again on June the 21st. A kid we had on this show, Marcus Wimberly from Boxside, will come in that weekend. He was once committed to Arkansas, backed off that. Now Michigan and Oklahoma and others are recruiting him. But Marcus will be here on the 21st weekend. Caleb Chester, a cornerback. Jaden Shelton, a linebacker from down in Dallas. Dylan Alford, kid from Saraland, Alabama, a wide receiver who's been here on unofficial. A player that I saw the other day at practice, Charles Bass, an athlete, defensive back from East St. Louis, Illinois, will be here that 21st weekend. Good looking kid. He was here, I don't know which practice it was, but it was one of the first ones. The first week when they were inside the Walker Pavilion, he was here at one of those. He's a good player. I think it was the first practice, but it wasn't. It was the second, but I think it was the first. Jacoby Hobson from Mississippi will be here. Another athlete type guy can play linebacker, safety, whatever. Blake Cherry, who we've talked about on this show from Owasso, will be here the 14th. An offensive tackle from over nearby Oklahoma there. Owasso, same school, produced Keon and other kids. You know, I like Coleman Patman a lot, safety from Del Val, Texas. He's coming in that May the 31st weekend. He was here on an unofficial visit recently. And that's the thing about a lot of these kids are familiar names because they have been here on unofficials. And now when they get to be going into their senior year, they can actually take official visits. So this is going to be good. These are all 25 kids, 25 kids we're talking about. That's who can take official visits. If there's a 2024 like Branson Hickman, we'll always specify that. But otherwise, when we're talking about official visits, it will be 2025. But I'll bring out when it's a 2024 grad transfer, or I'm sorry, not the grad transfer, but a transfer portal kid, 2024. It gets confusing. I know it does for the fans. It's easy to mix up, but only seniors going into their high school year can take, kids getting ready to be a senior can take official visits other than the transfer portal. The transfer portal is all out of whack. I mean, if you're transfer and you can take a visit. But these are high school kids we're talking about now, and they'll all be going in their senior years. There's about 13, 14 lined up visits right now to Arkansas. They will be many more. Like I said, most of these kids like Grayson Wilson now haven't even set them yet. The kids that are committed. So none of the commitments have said. They've got 5 commitments, and none of them have set a visit yet. If they have, they haven't announced it. So, and they will. There's no problem. They will set their visit and they'll take a visit. So, but some of these kids are just kind of lining up their visits with their summer plans and stuff like that. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
and
And
Grayson's getting ready to come back to a practice up here.
great.
Just real quick on him, let me say that his team won the state basketball championship. I saw them play in the first game they played against Boonville. I saw that they won the state championship. And he also went to the Under Armour camp last Sunday, and got MVP co-MVP at quarterback. And so, and Danny Beal from Cross County got co-defensive lineman of the MVP. So 2 Arkansas kids got nice little honors down there. I know some others like Kane Archer was down there, so very well represented, some very good talent in the state, and a lot of them were down there. Other kids were too, but I just want to bring out Grayson did win a state championship in basketball.
Well,
Kid's a
congratulations.
athlete. He's a heck of
Congratulations to
an
him. We
athlete.
got to give him some kudos on the show. Congratulations. I know his dad always tries to watch us. So, congratulations to Grayson there. We do have to move on, Otis, because I don't want to run out of time on the show here today. Let's talk about one of those recruits. We have some updates on him, Bear McCord. We've talked about him plenty of times on the show. Now, he's picked up quite a few offers, but he's still committed to the Hogs. So, Otis, give us the update on that.
Okay, 25 offers now. He will be here April 6th, Bear says. April 6th, he'll be here for a visit. He just keeps reeling in the offers. And I mean, everybody's going to offer him, but I feel good about it. I mean, he really wanted to be a Razorback. As long as Sam Pittman's the head coach, I feel really good about Bear still being a Razorback. But man, I mean, why would you not offer the kid? He's a big time player, big time person, recruit. And so, yeah, he's just pulling in the offers right now. He's still solid to Arkansas, and he and his family will be here April 6th to watch practice. And Bear's just a good kid, but a great player. Well, great kid, but a great player too. And he's a big offensive lineman, and it'll be interesting to, he's 2026, so he's still down the road a little ways. But yeah, he's committed to Arkansas, and but just wanted to provide an update that he's pulling in offers, still firmly committed to Arkansas. And these are good offers too. I mean, he's getting, I don't know if there is such thing as a bad offer when somebody wants to pay for your schooling. I don't know if there's such thing as a bad offer, but I'm just talking about powerhouse schools offering him scholarships, what I mean. So he's getting very good, respectable offers. And but he's going to be here, and we'll see how that turns out. But
Yeah.
I like Arkansas' chances. He's from Cass High School down there in Kingston, Georgia. And I feel good about him being a Razorback. Like I said, as long as this Sam Pittman's the head coach and stuff.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm sure we'll continue to get updates on him as things get a little closer to
Yeah,
obviously when he's a senior and things
yeah,
like
I'll
that. But
reach
man,
out.
he is such a big guy. I keep forgetting he's in high school and he's only a 2026 kid because he is
Yeah.
huge. I
Oh,
always
yeah.
read the stories you put out on him, and man, I love to see. The character as well, a good kid. It's one of we always say good kids on the show, but seriously, Arkansas does recruit some really good kids. So I
They
like I
do.
like him a lot, and I can't wait to hear the updates on him. Otis, I know people want to hear your thoughts from spring practice. I've been reading all of your stuff. Again, shameless
Mhm.
plug. Go read his stuff over at hogville.net or knwa.com. But you've been giving constant updates on how spring practices are going for the Razorbacks. And we kind of teased that we were going to talk about the linebackers room, but I do want to get your thoughts there because that is a room that there was a lot of question marks around them going into spring practice, especially with how young and inexperienced those guys are. But man, there's some talent in that room, Otis. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that was a position I thought would be a weakness. Instead, it's got a chance to be one of the strengths of the defense. I mean, they've really, yeah, and the inexperienced stuff I don't worry about because look, the only way you can become experienced is play. So everybody, Dick Buckus to Poopa Hall to Tommy Novus to Sammy Olajabutu and everybody else was inexperienced at one time. All those guys were inexperienced at one time. The only way you can get experience is playing, but you've got to have talent. And Xavier Sawyer is in his situation. I don't want just to say I'm saying he's Drew Sanders. His situation reminds me of Drew Sanders. Drew was playing at Alabama, but wasn't getting the spotlight, the big time reps and stuff he wanted. Same way with Sawyer at Georgia, was playing. It wasn't like he was a dog and wasn't getting to play. He was playing, but at Arkansas, he will get more reps, get more focus on him, just like Drew Sanders did, that helped him in the NFL draft. Sawyer's in that same, his situation reminds me so much of Drew Sanders. Now, if he's just as good as Drew Sanders, that'd be great, but I think he's got a chance to be. And the thing about Sawyer is he's a true linebacker, whereas Drew really was an edge guy who got converted to linebacker. So, but Brad Spence, and I remembered his name. I could never remember that kid's last name. I don't know why. It drives me crazy. Brad Smith, I put my cheat sheet away. I didn't have it. Carson Dean is another player that's really coming on. I mean, Carson had a lot of accolades in high school, was real fast, ran sprints. You don't see too many kids his size running sprints, but Carson Dean did. Alex Sanford from Oxford, Mississippi, Caden Henley, and then you signed Justin Logan, he's here, but you still got Wyatt Simmons from Harding Academy and Bradley Shaw from down still coming in from Alabama, still coming in to play linebacker. Bradley, I thought was one of the top linebackers in the country last year, and he's coming here to play linebacker. He's not here right now, but Juju Pope. So you got numbers there, and then Sam said they're going to add one more through the portal. So I like that position, Courtney. I think it's going to be a position of strength. They may somewhat struggle, I guess is word struggle. I don't know. They may early because they're not experienced. But the thing about it is, if a kid's talented, I will take the inexperience because, like I said, everybody was inexperienced at one time. Now, it helps that Sawyer's got some experience because really the last thing you want to do is put out a bunch of guys. And Spence got quite a few reps last year. That's good because the last thing you want is a bunch of inexperienced guys who have not played. You want some older player, or you'd like to have an older player or two, and that's where a kid out of the portal can come in too. Somebody that has played and has some experience, is because they're going to be a little growing pains with some of these younger guys till they're going to make mistakes, but they're talented. And like I said, you get experience one way, and that's by playing. But there are growing pains. But if you've got a couple of experienced guys like an Xavier Sawyer, maybe another guy out of the portal, and even Spence to a degree with his experience, that helps. And then guys like Carson Dean, Sanford, and those kids that haven't played, and Shaw and Caden, that gives them a chance to. You're going to experience some growing pains, but you could lessen the growing pains by having guys who have experience and can cover somewhat for them and can help line them up. It sounds simple, but they can help guide them where to line up. Hey, if they miss a gap, which gap, go one gap over, whatever, it helps to have some experience there. And that's where Sawyer and those guys come in. But I like that room. They've got talent. They just don't have the experience, but there again, the only way you get is put out there and play. You live with the growing pains, knowing that they're also going to make some plays. Guys like Carson Dean, Brad Spencer, and Sawyer are capable of making plays that maybe the average linebacker couldn't make too. Yeah. So I don't think that's going to be a weak position at all. I think it's going to be a strength, especially as the season goes on, barring injuries. I think if those kids develop like I think they will, and we've seen 4 practices. We didn't get to see one. There have been 5, I know, but we didn't get to see the Sunday practice. But the 4 practices I've seen those kids growing every day, getting better. And I don't think a linebacker is going to be a weakness on this defense. I don't know it'll be the strength, but it's not going to be a weak spot. I know they lost 4 guys to the portal. I fully get that, including the 2 starters, Jaheim and Pupal, who we talked about earlier. I know they lost those guys, and they were good players. Pupal I loved. I think he's a great player, but they were, they're eventually going to leave anyway. If nothing else, they don't hit the portal, they're going to graduate and go on. Eventually, you're going to have to young guys, and maybe some of these guys are playing maybe a year before they thought they'd have to. But that's fine. They're going to get experience. You're going to have growing pains, but you live with it. But they've got talent, and that's what you look for is talent. And that's the thing. Earlier, I wasn't for sure how talented some of these guys were because really we didn't hear much about Carson Dean. We didn't hear much about some of these others last fall. But we did hear about Brad Spence, and Sorry wasn't even here last fall. But now that he's here, he looks like he's everything that they thought he'd be, maybe more. Spence, like I said, Spence has got a little experience, a little bit
Yeah.
helps, better. And then Carson Dean and those guys, they're making plays. And the thing about it is they're very intelligent kids too. So that lessens the chances of mistakes. If you're smart, you retain what you're being taught by Coach Williams, you retain it, and you don't have to, you're still going to have mental mistakes along the way. Everybody does. We do, writing stories, doing shows, anything else. But it lessens it when you've got people that are intelligent, learn, and retain that what they're being taught. So like the
Absolutely.
linebacker room, Courtney, I don't think it's going to be a weakness.
Yeah, and to kind of add to that, because I was telling you before the show started, and we were talking about Xavier Story Jr., and I actually had the opportunity when I was working as a sports director in Panama City Beach, and I think I brought that up last time we did the show, but I got to cover Xavier at the high school level before he went to IMG Academy. He played at Graceville High School, and I just immediately, when I got to watch him, I mean, I watched him play football and basketball, and just the athleticism, the pure raw talent that kid has. I was like, whoever gets him is going to be lucky. So I wasn't surprised that he went to Georgia. I wasn't surprised at all. I was like, they are lucky to have him.
Yeah.
But because you look at it like an Alabama situation, where I love your Drew Sanders comparison, because
Yeah.
Drew Sanders wasn't a bad talent. Everyone goes, wait,
No.
why are we getting this reject from Alabama? No, he just wasn't the star. Alabama has so much depth, just
They
like
just wanna
Georgia
be there.
does. They didn't need to play him as much. And so
Yep.
that's where you kind of you got this diamond in the rough that says, I want to be the star. I want to go over to a team that I know I can impact. I know I can get reps on. And he's going to do that. And I think people are always so afraid of change. People are very scared when they hear 4 or 5 guys go to the portal. They get scared. But I kind of agree with you and Sam, where it's like, don't worry, we're gonna get another guy from the portal, but we have guys that we're ready and willing to develop.
Yeah.
And I've liked what I've seen from all of those guys that you mentioned from these 5 practices in spring. Now, it's only 5 practices. You're right. It isn't a huge body of work, but man, I like what I'm seeing so far. And that
Yeah.
gives me hope for that room. So I completely agree with you, Otis. I hate, I know a lot of people are going to laugh here and say, is this the media feeding us lies, or is this going to be like last year? No, we're just telling you what we've seen through these 5 practices.
Exactly.
And that's that we see a lot of spark from that room. So really quickly, Otis, because we're running out of time. Any other final thoughts about spring practice before we let you go real quickly?
No, like I said, I was one of those that thought linebacker would be a big time weakness, was hoping they'd sign 2 more kids after spring ball in there, but no, I just, Taylor Green there again, some people scoff because he's from Boise State, forget that. He probably was over. I mean, Boise State got fortunate to have him the time they had him. He's legit. Jaquindon, that running back room, Jimmy Smith left it in great shape. Courtney, he left and go to TCU, but Kobe Smith comes in and has a very good room to work with big kids, Jaquindon, all of them, Braylon, obviously the returning kids, the 3, Dominic, Rashad, and Isaiah. So there's 5 running backs there on scholarship, all can play. They may not all play, but all can play. Just the receivers are looking good. Isaiah Satina and had a big catch the other day from Taylor Green. Jalen Braxton's doing his normal thing, looking good. So Cameron Ball, the player I've loved since he was a freshman here, since he was in high school, actually. Cameron looks good, but Landon Jackson, I mean, he's big time for a reason, and because he's legit. So no, I mean, a lot of it's been what we expect. And to be fair, 3 of the practices were in shorts. 1 we didn't see. 1 was in pads. So there's been some short. Maybe when we see them scrimmage in pads and see them actually scrimmage, we may change our opinion on some stuff. But based on what I've seen, why I can say it about the linebacker, I love how they fly around, Courtney. And it's easier to do that in shorts when they get on pads and stuff. And they look good Thursday when they were in pads, when they were doing some scrimmage, and they look
Yeah.
good. So that's what I'm basing it on. And that could change once we see them more in pads and more in a scrimmage situation than what we've seen so far, because it is hard when they're in shorts. But I just feel like, though, that these kids are flashing and making plays, And if you're a playmaker, you're going to make plays. And Dean and Spence and Sorey get their names mentioned nearly every day.
Yeah, and Sam Pittman, to kind of go off of what you said right there. Sam Pittman said the defense has been looking really good, and especially he was impressed with them on Thursday. And I was talking to different people. I wasn't there on Thursday, but I was talking to different people, and they had all said consensus that they really liked how the defense looked on Thursday. So
Oh,
we talk about the offense, but like, look, hey, that's some love to the defense right there.
I think it's good they've got all four coaches coming back too. They've retained, because like I asked one of the linemen, it was Eric Gregory the other day. For a while, the defensive line coach position was a revolving door.
Hmm.
And now they've had Deke for 3 years, and these other guys are all here for 2 years.
Yeah.
So they're not having to relearn terminology and relearn a philosophy. They've got all four assistants back on defense, and I think that helps the defense. And they've got key players like Braxton and those guys back, Landon Jackson and Kimball, and those guys are back. Other Snacks, Hudson Clark. I mean, I think that helps, and then to have the entire staff back helps too. But there for a while, it was just revolving door at defensive line coach. I was changing every year.
Yeah, no, yeah, and,
Right.
and I remember you asking that question, and it sounded like Eric Gregory really loved that they had Deke Adams back and those other coaches as well. That's just really good stability there on the defense that they
Sure.
definitely needed, and I think is definitely beneficial for the team. But hey, Otis, we are running out of time, so I'm going to let you go. Thanks again for another Arkansas football recruiting report. We'll see you next Sunday to get more of your observations from this spring and much, much more. Thanks again, Otis.
Thanks, Courtney. Have a good week too.
You too.
Appreciate it.